Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbite. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be jumping into a bit of Pearl Jam, doing another track from them called Do the Evolution, which is suggested by a Nick 1977. So we're going to be checking out this song. This is from the album Yield, which is from 1998. By this point in their career, because I got into Pearl Jam really early on in their career, like from the first album, as probably a lot of Gen Xers probably did as well at the time. By the time they got to this album, Yield, I kind of already jumped off the bandwagon a little bit. Kind of wasn't a big fan of the direction they were going. It was just a little too, I don't know, mellow. But I remember hearing various tracks here and there, and I remember hearing this one. I can't remember how the song goes now, but I do remember the song or the title, "Do the Evolution," and it was kind of one of the, if I remember correctly, one of the more kind of like rock and roll kind of ones, not the sort of mellower ones. So I kind of like that, but again, there was just too many misses and not enough hits for me by this point. So I just sort of stopped listening to Pearl Jam by this point. So maybe I'll have to go back into the band and kind of listen to more of their later stuff, and maybe, like I said in previous videos, kind of going back with an older set of ears, and maybe I'll appreciate them a bit more. I don't know, maybe I'll still have the same opinion, but anyway, we're going to check out this one from the Yield album from 1998 called Do the Evolution. So let's check this one out. Okay, this definitely sounds familiar now. I remember this.
I'm ahead, I'm the man, I'm the first mammal to wear pants, yeah. I'm at peace with my lust, I can kill cause I got a choice, yeah. It's evolution, baby.
This was a pretty popular song, I think. I remember hearing it on the radio.
I'm a beast, I'm the man, how it starts on the day of the crash, yeah. On the lynch, I'm a churn, all alone in here, I'll flatten them out, yeah. It's herd behavior. It's evolution, baby.
Where is this pulled from? It sounds like it's pulled from another band, another song. That bit just there, I remember hearing that for the first time and thinking it sounds familiar. Like it sounds like it came from something from like the 60s or something, like from another band. I'm sure it's probably not, it wasn't like ripped off or anything like that, but it does have that familiarity to it that kind of just kind of screams 1960s. And that's the other thing that I've noticed as I've listened to a lot of this grunge stuff, a little bit sort of later in my life, that I've realized now that like a lot of the grunge stuff was was taking their influences from a lot of the 60s and 70s rock, which makes sense because obviously they were kids when they were growing up at that time. Because people kind of forget, like they think the grunge stuff is, the bands themselves were Gen Xers, but they weren't. They were older than the Gen Xers. Gen Xers were the ones who were the fans, the younger kids and stuff, like myself. So they were a little bit older, so they kind of grew up in like the 60s and 70s and stuff. So it makes sense then that the influences would have been the bands that were coming around at that time. But at the time when it was all happening in the 90s, I just didn't think. I just thought, oh, this is all kind of new, and it was a sort of a contrast to what was happening in the 80s. I had no idea that this was actually being influenced from the 60s and 70s. And then you hear something like that and you go, well, yeah, that's from the 60s, but it makes all sense now because obviously that's what these guys' influences were. But let me know if that's pulled from something or it was sort of inspired or sounds like something. It definitely just got that familiarity to it that I kind of feel like I've heard somewhere from another band or something like that. So.
The slide is mine.
Definitely, also somewhat little different to what they had obviously done before that. Kind of obviously this is sort of at a point where Pearl Jam are kind of starting to do some different things. And although with all the grunge stuff, I think Pearl Jam were kind of they had that straight ahead sort of rock kind of like angle, but then they would kind of like do some sort of different stuff as well. And that was the interesting thing about a lot of these bands at that time was that they had that sort of two sides of them. They had like this sort of straight edge rock stuff, and then they had whatever their other side was. They had their own sort of angle, and Pearl Jam, I guess, kind of had more of the mellower kind of side, I guess you could say. I don't know. They all had that a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of feel like doing this kind of stuff right here was kind of what Pearl Jam were kind of good at and what they were doing, I suppose, compared to some other bands who were doing their own thing or whatever. So, and obviously Eddie Vedder, another great front man. And that's the other thing about the grunge era was that it was just full of all these front men who just personified kind of that sort of you know, the vocalist, this the front man of a band, which has always been a thing, I guess, in rock music. But I don't know. It seems like it's a sort of particular sort of element in a lot of the grunge stuff. When you think of like your Eddie Vedders and your Chris Cornells and Kurt Cobains, you know what I mean? They're all front men, and you don't really pay as much attention, or maybe you do. I don't know. I didn't certainly, even though I was not a vocalist kind of person. Those were the people that stood out in those bands, which is quite kind of interesting, because they're not necessarily all vocal oriented songs, although you could look at it that way, I guess. Where Eddie gets nuts on the vocals. Oh, fade out. Forgot about that. We talked about this before on the channel about the fade outs and how it's not really much of a thing anymore. And yeah, it's always interesting to see them when it pops up, especially with all these sort of older tracks and stuff. It's hard to believe that this is now, I guess, close to 30 years ago. Because I remember when it came out, and like I said before, by this point I was kind of off Pearl Jam a little bit. I think I kind of after Vitalogy and maybe No Code, I kind of went, it was just going away from what I really wanted to hear, and obviously my taste in music was kind of changing as well at the same time. And then by that point, the grunge thing was kind of over. So like well over, and it all kind of turned into alternative rock. So and then new metal started taking in, and by that point, I was listening to a lot of like stoner rock and things like that. So that was kind of my thing. So I think I was just wasn't. I don't know. I just wasn't heavy enough for me, I guess, at the time where I kind of wanted more heavier kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's a great track. It's definitely as far as that part of the career, definitely one of the better songs for sure that I've heard. But I've got to listen to them again, like these albums, the later ones and stuff, and see if I can maybe appreciate it from a sort of different angle now. Because I remember at the time I was, I think I was a teenager, late teenager, maybe 20 or something like that, maybe, and yeah, it just was just a different mindset at the time. As when you're that age, you kind of looking for certain things, and if it doesn't give it to you, then you kind of just move on or whatever. So anyway, thank you to Nick 1977 for making the suggestion, and I will definitely check out more Pearl Jam in the future on this channel. So thank you for tuning in as always. Please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to those who have subscribed, and keep all the suggestions coming, because I'll put it on the list and I'll check it out for sure. So and I'll see you in the next video.
Podcast.